And that's why I wondered, like, when the hell, what does this have to do with my desire for a candy apple blue Chevy Cavalier? And
we're going to get there, okay? We just have to work our way through this. So I just...
It's hard.
It all starts with planning, right?
Yes.
And that's why we made an agenda. So
right.
We're going to start sharing that at the beginning of the show, so it's more organized.
Yes.
And then some magic is going to happen. and then a few months down the line, you're going to get...
Blue.
Exactly.
Chevy Cavalier.
It'll appear in the driveway.
Incredible.
You'll manifest it.
Those low torque engines are... Yes, because that is how mysticism works. And folks, we're going to talk about how mysticism works here in Sexoterica. And
and that's part of what we're going to be doing from this show forward, is we're going to be sharing with you what we're going to be sharing with you at the beginning of every episode.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
It's part of our effort to continuously improve.
Because if you don't hook people in the first 60 seconds, they're just not going to listen to the rest.
Or even the first 5 minutes. And I get it, because I also wonder when I push play on a podcast, what am I listening to? And why should I stick around for this entire journey?
Right.
Where's it even going? Do we have a destination? And let me assure you, we do have a destination.
We certainly do. We certainly do. Though isn't it about the journey, really?
Yeah. But I think people want to know, like, what are some of the sites that we're going to see along the way in this journey?
Well, one of the sites they're not going to see is heaven.
So that's a great segue into our first topic, which
I'm a professional.
We are going to answer one of the listeners' questions.
Yes.
And I'm sure you'll let us know who that is. But the question was, how do you know there is no heaven? Because that is something that we mentioned previously. So we'll respond to that. And then after that, we are going to talk about ayahuasca-ish. Myahuasca.
Yeah.
So, and we'll explain more when we get to that topic.
Yeah, because there's a lot to unpack from that, for sure.
Something to do with energetic realms and also getting past societal narratives.
Right.
And then, go ahead.
Then we'll go right into common side effects, which we've been teasing for many episodes.
We have, yeah.
We have to finally review that.
Finally. We've been putting it off for too long.
So we'll get to all of this, folks. But let's open this baby right up with the conversation from a listener question who I think wishes to remain anonymous, or at least user 986001 is not going to help. But so, in fact, even revealing that might be too much. No. So this actually, of all things, came from OnlyFans. That's a first. Okay. I know, which is nice.
Okay. Yeah, we take questions from all the platforms. And that's just one we didn't expect a real question from. But hey, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for reaching out to us.
Right. And I mean, at least, we do post the episodes there. And so it's great to get that because, like you said, Ellen, the show's going to go everywhere. And I'm sure a lot of that's going to be stuff that might not be so fitting for all platforms. So, you got to keep your options open. But heaven, I should say, not Evan. Heaven, maybe heaven's one of your options. I don't know. But heaven is not one of your options. So let's...
Hey, what do OnlyFans and heaven have in common?
I don't know.
I think that might fit into this conversation. I think we should bring that in too.
Okay. I was going to...
Brian, why don't you respond to that question first?
Well, sure. Yeah, actually, I'll read the question because it was very, very nicely written, and somebody who's clearly been listening for to our shows for some time. So let's do it here. Rabbi Sovryn. I still don't know why exactly people call me that. I never started that. Anyway, Rabbi Sovryn, where has Sexoterica been all my life? Where has Ellen been all my life?
Aw, thank you. I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, I asked the same question. I'm like, yeah, where has she been all my life? Oh, my God. Anyway, reading on. I already know where you've been all my life, good sir, between my ears. Interesting. Okay.
You live in that person's head.
Yeah. I guess I do that for a lot. But to the point, I've always been impressed by your openness to a lot of different ideas and systems. Even thinking back to when you were considered an anarcho-capitalist, you were consistently injecting wildly different ideologies into its holes.
Ooh.
They literally wrote dramatic pause.
Let the innuendo sink in there. Also, the fact that this person's been listening to you since you were an anarcho-capitalist, which was over a decade ago.
Yeah, that's why I say long time listener. And I mean, I don't know that I ever... I guess there's times where I maybe very early on I might have used that term, but it was so quickly that I got past that because the reactions that I got to, my old shows. Anyway, it's been a long time, bottom line. So, all right, I'm going to reread that really quickly. Even thinking back to when you were considered an anarcho-capitalist, you were consistently injecting wildly different ideologies into its holes. Dramatic pause. This gets worse. You were like Jodorowsky, quote unquote, raping Frank Herbert.
Whoa.
Wow. So for those that don't know what that is, okay, that's actually a statement from Alejandro Jodorowsky from Jodorowsky's Dune, a documentary about the Dune movie he was going to make back in like the 70s or whatever it was. And he literally said that, like, because he was saying how he was changing it and turning Dune into what he wanted it to be an LSD experience on screen. Like he wanted people to have the same experience of taking LSD just by watching this movie. Kind of akin to how like 2001 is a alchemical film, right? Where it literally changes you after you watch it.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about the movie The Shining and how different that was to the Stephen King novel.
Right.
And that was done purposely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and we don't need to get lost in the subject. I mean, but like this is, folks really need to understand this. And I gave up on the idea that movies would pay fidelity to source material. I was disillusioned to that a long time ago, or disabused of that a long time ago. Anyway, so you were like Jodorowsky raping Frank Herbert. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about that. Not that, even though a conversation around the term rapes could certainly be an interesting one in the future for Sexoterica, but I am going to leave that there. I don't know. Maybe people will ask about that.
Yeah. We'll touch on that some other time. It's a very sensitive topic.
Very sensitive. Very advanced. Okay. So, reading on. So when I heard you say with certainty that there was absolutely no heaven, I was rather shocked you left no holes to fill.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now I can get on the intertubes and find some kind of an answer, but as I've come to expect, old Doc Sovryn likely has something to say that no one else on the internet ever has. And that's why you're still the best thing on the internet, no matter what you're talking about. All love.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It just ended with all love, Rabbi. And
I love that. That's exactly how I feel about you too.
Thank you, love. That's so sweet.
You always have original insights that nobody else has.
Yeah. Boy, we could talk about that. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, love. And thank you to the listener. All love to you as well. That's really precious. I'm going to refrain from crying. So.
All right. Well, it's time to fill those holes, Brian.
Yes, we got to fill the holes. And if there's another thing I'm good at besides original insight or somewhat original insight, it might be filling holes. But so let's do it.
We've gotten in a lot of practice lately.
Yeah.
So.
Oh boy, last night.
You're ready.
Oh man, that couch. Woo, repair job. All right. So, I mean, really. Okay. All right. Yeah, so let's talk about this. So the certainty that there absolutely is no heaven. Now, one can easily try and run to a logical response, to that.
Okay, well, let's pause on that. Let's backpedal for a minute.
Sure.
Because I do remember a couple episodes ago, we made the comment, there is no heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we moved past it really quickly. We didn't dwell on it.
Yeah, no.
Let's backpedal a little on that statement. And just correct, what is your actual belief about heaven?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we really have to define terms. Okay. So is there, I guess, is there a paradisical state that someone goes to in the afterlife that exists? No. If that's what you mean by heaven, is again some paradisical state, some Elysium fields or something like that. Like, no, that does not exist.
What about the in the Bible, it's described as like a perfect square. It has measurements, and it's like made of very specific materials.
Fantastic.
And there's neighborhoods where people live. It's like a pre-planned community in a cookie cutter house almost. Right. Like that's how I envision it. But it's angelic and heavenly, you know?
Fantastic. Great to ask.
Gold.
Okay.
Everything is lined with gold and silver and pearlescent.
Okay. Yeah. So the Bible actually never describes a heaven.
What?
Ever.
I thought it did.
What you're talking about, and it's beautiful of you to bring that up. Because so many Christians like get so confused. I'm not saying you're confused. I'm saying they are.
I am confused right now, actually.
Okay. Well,
very.
All right. So what you're describing is out of the book of Revelation. Mm-hmm. Okay. And to be fair, the book of Revelation, because it sounds like I'm ripping on Christians. To be fair, the book of Revelation is arguably the most Jewish text. Like it reads like a Jewish text. And that's because, and plenty of scholars have looked into this, like 80% of what's in the book of Revelation you can find throughout the quote unquote Old Testament, throughout the Tanakh. Okay. So it's kind of a remix of messianic ideals. All right. So that description, what you're talking about, where it is, you're absolutely right. There is this description of this thing, of this paradisical existence with specific gemstones, streets of gold, transparent gold at that, all that stuff. That's the New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem is something that comes down to earth after the 1,000 years after the millennium, after the 1,000 years of the lake of fire. Okay. This all gets into, and again, like there are multiple different ways to interpret the book of Revelation, but bottom line being what you're describing is actually New Jerusalem, which is on earth.
The pearly
not in
gates.
Heaven. Yes.
The pearly gates. That's out of the book of Revelation.
The New Jerusalem is not heaven. The masses content themselves with a weak, disembodied notion of a heaven, a sort of ethereal retirement home for the soul. But this is a concept for the mediocre, a fantasy of passive bliss. It is not the future promised in the Tanakh, Jewish mystical texts, nor in any other source close to the biblical autographs. The popular Christian concept of heaven is a place one goes to, an escape from the physical world. It is a surrender of the material plane. The New Jerusalem, described with ferocious detail in the Apocalypse of John, more commonly known as the Book of Revelation, is rather a place that comes to you. It does not stay in the heavens. It descends from space to a renewed earth. It is not a state of mind or a spiritual dimension. It is a tangible, physical metropolis, the seat of God's manifest power on a physical plane. The measurements are eerily specific, with foundations of precious stones, walls of jasper, gates of pearl, and streets of pure gold. This is not mere poetry. It is a statement of permanence and value, and is potentially technological in nature. In fact, Seventh-day Adventism would often depict the New Jerusalem as a space station hovering above the earth in its artwork. However, the city is described as a perfect cube, as long as it is wide and high. This geometrical purity signifies a divine, unshakable order, a stark contrast to the chaos of the fallen world. As Dr. Sovryn stated, the Book of Revelation is arguably the most Jewish text of the New Testament, borrowing heavily from the Tanakh and likely other popular Jewish law of the time. So while the concept of the New Jerusalem comes out of the largely spurious New Testament, the concept itself may have ancient Hebrew and Kabbalistic legitimacy. For example, notice that there is no temple in the New Jerusalem. Understand that the Hebrew temple was a focal point, a place where the divine presence was concentrated. In the New Jerusalem, there is no need for such a conduit because God resides there. Their presence is total and absolute, suffusing the entire structure. And perhaps this is also a hint at the Kabbalistic concept that after the destruction of Herod's temple in 70 CE, the temple is now everywhere, in every bedroom and in every human heart. This may seem as a stark contrast from Ezekiel's prophesied third temple in the Tanakh. This doesn't mean that what Ezekiel saw was a nebulous dream. Rather, it's that the temple he describes is not a religious structure at all, but rather a spaceport for Joseph Blumrich's seminal work of scholarship and engineering, the spaceships of Ezekiel. The New Jerusalem, on the other hand, is the capital city of a new creation, the nexus of a new heaven and a new earth, as mentioned by the prophet Isaiah, and reiterated in the book of Revelation. But it is unequivocally physical, constructed and real. It is no ethereal or spiritual paradise. This flaccid dream of a heaven is an escape, a fantasy for the weak who wish to flee the world. The New Jerusalem, on the other hand, is not an escape from creation, but the ultimate perfection of it.
Okay, so the idea of heaven floating up in the clouds somewhere, that's the New Testament in the book of Revelations.
Yes, yeah. Now, I mean, there's what's called the book of Hebrews, which, don't let that confuse you. It is a New Testament text, not an Old Testament text. The book of Hebrews does talk somewhat about like a heavenly tabernacle. Okay, so, and that Jesus serves in it, under the priesthood of the order of Melchizedek, like it gets into this kind of language. There is an idea that, and also within the New Testament, basically the New Testament is the only place you really hear about a heaven. Okay, now there are people who will say, wait a minute, in the Old Testament, what about the book of Isaiah, like in Isaiah chapter 65 or chapter 66, where he's describing how the lion will lay with the lamb, they'll turn their swords into plowshares, all this stuff. Okay. When you read that in the Old Testament, it's abundantly clear that he's saying, like, it gets into where a person who only lives to be 100 years will be considered accursed. Wait a minute, it's heaven. Nobody's supposed to die in heaven. How exactly does that work? So he's not talking about heaven, bottom line. So the only afterlife described in the Tanakh, okay, is what's called Sheol. And here's the reality of Sheol.
To understand Sheol is to understand a more primal, potent and unsanitized view of life and death, stripped of the moralizing fantasies that came from later Christian sources. Sheol is not heaven. It is not hell. To compare them is to compare a fathomless, silent abyss to a gilded palace or a torture chamber. They are not even in the same category of existence. In the very bedrock of the Tanakh, Sheol is the inexorable destination of all mortals. It is not a place of judgment. It is a state of being, or rather, non-being. It is the great equalizer, the final repository for kings and slaves, for the righteous patriarch and the wicked authoritarian. When the patriarch Jacob believed his son Joseph to be dead, he did not imagine Joseph in a blissful paradise, but lamented that he, Jacob, would go down to Sheol to my son, mourning. The righteous Job, in his agony, did not pray for heavenly release, but yearned for the concealing darkness of Sheol. Think of it as a vast subterranean shadowland or a silent kingdom. It is described with a vocabulary of negation and finality. A land of silence and darkness, according to Psalm 115, verse 17. The dead do not praise God from Sheol. It is a place of profound quiet, where the deeds, thoughts, and passions of life cease. It is also described as a place of forgetfulness. It is a realm where memory fades and consciousness is, at best, a faint echo. The inhabitants, the enigmatic Rephaim or shades, are weak, listless, and bereft of the vigour of life. More on the Rephaim another time. And for most people it is considered a pit of no return. Job 7:9 states, "He who goes down to Sheol does not come up." It is depicted as having gates, a final and binding destination from which there is no escape by mortal means. There are clear exceptions to this rule, however, as seen in the prophet Samuel being arisen from his rest by the witch of Endor, not to be confused with the forest moon of the Ewoks. Most importantly, though, Sheol is morally neutral. It does not operate on a system of reward or punishment. One's virtue or vice in life determines the length and quality of that life, but death unites all in the same dusty, silent congregation. For the matriarchs and ancient Hebrews, reward for a so-called righteous life was to live a long one on the earth, an immortality akin to the life of Methuselah, and the punishment for wickedness was to be cut off from life prematurely. Sheol was simply what came after for everyone. The Book of Ecclesiastes, often attributed to King Solomon, strips away all fantasy and sentiment for the afterlife. He presents Sheol not as a threat, but as an inescapable, amoral fact. This is not a lament, it is an exhortation. Solomon is telling you that this life, this vibrant, physical, present moment, is the only arena for action. Power, will, strength and mastery can only be exercised now. Sheol is the grand cessation. It is the absolute zero of existence, a silent, dark void where plans cease and strength evaporates. As Ecclesiastes states, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in Sheol, where you are going, there is neither working nor planning, nor knowledge nor wisdom. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and to dust all return. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even the memory of them is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. Solomon does not offer us a comforting bedtime story of rewards and punishments in some other world. Rather, the king gives you a command. Embrace the life you have, for the silence that follows is absolute. Now, contrast this potent, amoral abyss with the concepts that supplanted it. Heaven and hell are constructs of a later, more systematized theology, one obsessed with a cosmic ledger of deeds based on wholly made-up and invented concepts of good and evil. Heaven became a place of eternal, conscious reward. It is defined by the presence of God, by light, by joy, and by the continuation of a perfected individual identity. It is a destination for the worthy. Hell, a concept more akin to the later Jewish idea of Gehinnom or the Christian lake of fire, became a place of eternal, conscious punishment. It is defined by the absence of God, by fire, by torment, and by the eternal suffering of the unworthy. Do you see the fundamental schism? Heaven and hell are products of a world view that demands a final, eternal sorting based on moral performance. They are answers to the problem of ultimate justice. Sheol answers a different, more primal question. What happens when the life force leaves the body? The ancient answer was stark and powerful. It goes down. It becomes a shade. It is silenced. It joins the collective stillness beneath the earth. Sheol is about entropy, the inevitable descent from the vibrant energy of life into the quiet of the grave. Heaven and hell are about judgment, a final reckoning that extends consciousness and consequence into eternity. One is a statement of grim reality. The others are statements of moral philosophy. And the problem with Abrahamic concepts of the afterlife beyond Sheol is that morality and justice are not inherent components of the cosmos. These are merely in the eyes of the beholder. According to the most ancient sources, life is not for the timid, and the only equality is not in the superficial judgments of some non-existent sky daddy god, but in the embrace of a silent kingdom that is no respecter of persons.
Both good, quote-unquote, good people and bad people go there. Now, why is that? Okay. And the very simple reason is, and this is part of the reason you can say there is no heaven, and we can get into so much more. Okay. But there is no in Judaism / Kabbalah, okay, where all of these concepts originated, there's really no good and no evil. Like it's not amoral isn't exactly the right term, but there's no real good and evil. And so there's no separate place for like good people to go to, because what the fuck is good and what the fuck is evil? It's all God, or quote unquote God. And so, like that's a very quick reasoning through a Kabbalistic lens. Why there is no heaven is because there's no delineation. People are people, God is God, etc. Even though there is no God, but
so people like Metatron.
Yeah. So
are they just more powerful as opposed to less powerful?
Yeah. Okay. So that gets to the point of, so when you say heaven, what do you mean? Do you mean a paradisical place for people to live, or do you mean where God, quote unquote, God, Yahweh, or whatever you want to say, resides? Now, a place for the heavenly host, and interesting that we use the term heavenly host, that's a different conversation to have. Like, is there a base of operations, basically, for the cherubim and, God's cadre, to live? Sure. I'd love to get into a very quick story that has to do with Seventh-day Adventism, but I'll refrain from that at the moment.
So is there an energetic spiritual realm for, I guess, people to go to after they die, in your opinion? Or, like, it maybe after death isn't even specific enough, like between lifetimes? Yes,
right, between lifetimes. See, you're so brilliant. Okay, because that's the other reason that there is no heaven, because like if a reincarnation is a thing, then we could talk about a well of souls. That's another completely different conversation. And that is actually a place that exists on Earth, or may exist on Earth. I mean, it does, but like, is that the same well of souls where souls come from? Separate conversation. But your insight to really quickly answer this, your insight into like the concept of a paradisical state, okay, that humans could exist within, your insight on, but what about this thing that gets described with very specific dimensions and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not talking about a New Jerusalem, but the song from the 80s was absolutely right. Ooh, baby, heaven is a place on earth. And Judaism understands this because it's always talking about the world to come, and that's actually heaven. Like, heaven is not some wild place that people go to. Now, is there a Sheol, like a place where say energies, like the energetic patterns of previous lives, could exist? Yes. But again, this is a place that it doesn't respect good or evil. It has no understanding of that. If I'm looking at it from a Kabbalistic lens.
Okay, so let me just ask a couple questions.
Sure.
First, if heaven's not a place you go, then what exactly is it?
Well, again, which heaven are we talking about?
You said heaven's a place on earth.
Yes.
And then my second question has to do with Sheol, but I'll let you answer the first one.
So, okay, heaven is a place on earth is the idea that there is a paradisical form of existence. Okay, and that's on earth. That's not here yet. So, like, there's no planetoid you're going to go to. You're not going to Kolob like in Mormonism or something like that. Like, heaven as a paradisical state of existence is right here on earth. Immortality is right here on earth. Like, all of these things are right here on earth. The argument around, well, sorry, I could spend so much time on this, but like, part of the reason that in Judaism that closer to the first century CE, that there were, they separated, like you had Sadducees, Pharisees, and so on, like why there were splits in denominations, shall we say, actually came down to this concept of the afterlife. What matters, life on earth or the afterlife? The Pharisees said afterlife. Sadducees said life on earth. They're the ones that were right. Again, history is written by the victors, not by the people who are right.
So then what do you think the experience of Sheol is, if it's not paradisical and everyone goes there?
Yeah, this is one of those places where Star Trek wasn't a lie. And as we said in the last episode, how like the first 2 seasons of The Next Generation, like all the great quotes come from the first 2 seasons of The Next Generation. And Picard is getting asked this question in an episode in season 2, and he responds with the most beautiful Gene Roddenberry response ever. And Gene Roddenberry had a lot of mystical friends. There's a big conversation to have around that. The response was,
I have a question, sir.
Yes, Data, what is it?
What is death?
Oh, is that all? Oh, Data. You're asking probably the most difficult of all questions. Some see it as a changing into an indestructible form. Forever unchanging. They believe that the purpose of the entire universe is to then maintain that form in an Earth-like garden, which will give delight and pleasure through all eternity. On the other hand, there are those who hold to the idea of our blinking into nothingness, with all of our experiences and hopes and dreams merely a delusion.
Which do you believe, sir?
Considering the marvelous complexity of the universe, its clockwork perfection, its balances of this against that, matter, energy, gravitation, time, dimension, I believe that our existence must be more than either of these philosophies. That what we are goes beyond Euclidean or other practical measuring systems, and that our existence is part of a reality beyond what we understand now as reality.
the afterlife is something beyond any concept that anyone could express in language. Like, that's basically what he said. You know, the idea that it's nothingness or the idea that it's some like paradisical existence or hell. No, it's something in between those two that exists beyond our human mind's ability to conceive. And that's ultimately my answer.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So can I answer the question now?
Please, yes.
Yeah, so ultimately, how do I know for sure there isn't a heaven? I don't know anything for sure. I mean, we're talking about things that are far beyond, like you said, the ability for humans to comprehend. And it's certainly something that I've been taught as a Christian, what was a comforting thought for people. Something that seemed so certain as a Christian, and then, you know, leaving that, becoming an atheist, and then bouncing back to rediscover spirituality. I honestly don't know, but the closest that we can come to really knowing and understanding it is by studying other people's near-death experiences. And that's something that I've certainly spent some time researching and listening to people's stories.
Sure.
And I think it's different for everyone, and it's certainly a unique experience. There are things that are commonalities.
Yes.
And science can try to explain away by saying that your brain undergoes some chemical alterations as you're dying, like the release of endogenous DMT.
Yep.
That creates very powerful hallucinogenic experiences.
Right.
But that's not to say that what you're experiencing is not real.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that for me has been difficult to get over, is that the world that we experience is not just the empirical scientific world of the measurable. Like, we actually live in an immeasurably mysterious universe that is full of quandaries and things that we cannot explain.
Right.
And that's okay to live with the mystery, I think. And there's no reason for us to just accept that this is not true because we can't measure it and we can't just show someone else, like, look, see, here it is. So listening to these near-death experiences, people often talk about feeling a sense of peace and of coming home.
Yes.
And of being loved, just this endless, eternal love. And that, I think, if you can experience that, whether you're dying, dead, or still alive, in a sense, that is heaven, right? And so it's a state of mind almost that you go to, not literally a place. And I think any place that you are at where you can establish that state of mind or bring yourself even close to it, can be heavenly or heaven-like. As far as like the physical location of heaven, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, can I ask you this?
Sure.
So I love that you brought up DMT. And, as more research is done on DMT experiences, especially long-term DMT experiences, like there is the very understandable notion that that when you are on DMT, you literally are going to another dimension, and there are beings there, there's entities, the whole thing.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And I do want to touch on that again. As we mentioned at the beginning, we're going to talk about our recent Myahuasca experience, where I think we might have brushed up against this topic.
Right.
It seems like maybe there are other realms out there that are not physical in nature. Right. But somehow energetic.
Yeah, so we could say modalities or dimensions. There's other words that people might be comfortable with. But so when a person is going through in an NDE, a near-death experience, when someone's experiencing that, and there's that DMT release, like you said, like the idea that they go, that their consciousness, their ownness takes them to another dimension. Now, I wouldn't call that heaven in the popular conceptions of heaven, but is that someplace that they would stay until, say, they're reincarnated or something along those lines? What do you think about that?
Oh, I think the soul travels, or what, I guess I should clarify what people would call the soul or the spirit, the energetic pattern that is you without your ego. Is essentially what I'm referring to when I say that. Right. So like the energetic pattern that is you, that signature, that energy signature will travel, at least from what I understand from listening to these near-death experiences, drug experiences that people have had, other things, it sounds as though there are places that you can go. Some people have gone to very much similar places, like with DMT, like you mentioned. And then there's other schools of thought or teachings, like very ancient teachings, religious or spiritual, that talk about your soul traveling like through the planets and ultimately through the sun and coming back to Earth and going into a child. And that's the whole like concept of reincarnation, where you choose the circumstances in which you were born. There's even, like, I was reading about the Ojibwe, and they have a belief that, and this is my lineage. Yes. They have a belief that your identity is very firmly linked to a geographic location as well as a time in history. So there's all of these cross-sectional important pieces of information that define you as a being. However, your being is not limited to just that. That's your ego. That's your identity at the moment. All things have a spirit, according to that line of teaching. And we all transition throughout time from one being to another.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And it's one of the really beautiful, there are so few belief systems, I'll call it that, religions, whatever, that still kind of venerate like the land, the geography. Like, you could think of Samoans, First Nations, like Ojibwe and so on. Like, they do, Jews do, but that's a very contentious conversation to have, because and a very
and it's not Israel, right?
It's not. It's certainly not Jerusalem. It's not exactly Jerusalem. Like that's a very complex conversation. Yeah, Israel, and does it even matter anymore? Like there's a point where you kind of go beyond that, but at the same time, there is a sacredness to the land. Like the idea that the Samoans have that like manna literally pours out of Hawaii. Pours out of the islands. It's such a huge conversation to have, and it's very real. So I love that you brought that up.
And yes, this is actually a scientifically provable fact that there are different energetic lines. The Earth itself is generating electromagnetism.
Right, and like magnetic ley lines, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's intersections all throughout the planet, and some
Yes.
areas have a greater electromagnetic field than others.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so the idea that, say, you at quote unquote death, whatever that happens to be, that you like transition, say, to another dimension, that's not heaven. Like that would be Sheol. That would be that conversation, okay, around Sheol deeper. But yeah, the idea that there is some paradisical place or place of judgment you go to in the afterlife, whether for good or evil, is, I can confidently say, no, that does not exist, because good and evil don't exist. Like the very concept of judgment is just not there.
Yeah, they're false concepts.
Exactly.
You're your own worst critic. You're your own judge.
Yes. Yeah, right. You're your own Satan and your own God.
Other people may pass judgment on you,
Right.
but it's not an eternal judgment, right?
Mm-hmm,
You're an ever-changing being.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Now, again, the idea that there is some like place that heavenly beings, like a heavenly abode of some kind, where other entities exist. Okay, that's a separate conversation. But I don't think that's what they're really getting at. When I say there's no heaven, I don't mean that. I mean more like, yeah, there's no place of judgment. There's no paradisical state to go to. So,
yeah, and this whole concept of identity, I think, is really important to bring into this conversation as well, because you get to determine, like I said, other people may pass judgment on you, but it's ultimately your judgment of yourself that kind of determines your fate moving forward, right?
Right.
So, like, you are more than just your physical body, and I think people know this to be true. They feel it to be true, even if you can't, like, prove it. And I think some of the realms of study that do talk about this as a fact are kind of pushed to the side in the scientific community or the Western world and kind of laughed at or looked at as quackery. But we all do have an electromagnetic field that our bodies generate.
Right.
We are affected by energies, by radiation, whether we consciously know it or not. But I think people can get more in touch with this if they just sit with themselves and like meditate or just feel.
Yeah.
Like we all do have an energy field, and I think that your energy pattern, your energy signature, exists like inside of, along with, in concert with your physical body. But when that perishes, your energetic signature is somewhere.
Right.
It's not in your body, but it resides somewhere.
Right.
So in that sense, do I think heaven exists as a physical place? Like you said, no, but I do think it's a state of mind, an experience of being.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the idea that heaven is a place on earth. I mean, go back to a previous episode where we talked about, there's the confusion, the biblical confusion that, man was, earth was made for man. And it's like, oh, wait, actually, no, man was made for earth. Two very different ideas. There's a lot to unpack in that. But part of that is like, this is home. like this is heaven.
And that's
right
not
here.
even getting into the concept of starseed and people who, souls from other, like the Pleiades or something.
Right. Yeah. Which massive conversation to have around that.
Which we should someday.
Yes. Yeah. So, and folks, of course, you can get in all your questions, fu@xxxtech.net, fu@xxtech.net, or you can do YouTube comments, Spotify comments, or you can do what this person did and actually message Miriam Goldblossom on OnlyFans. So,
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, fantastic. And also thank you. The kind words were too much.
So should we start talking about Myahuasca now?
Yeah, I mean, while we're
perfect time.
Absolutely. While we're talking about other realms, which that's really what we're talking about, whether it's Sheol or, something from a DMT experience, whatever. I mean, this is completely relevant, flows right in. I mean, so we had a Myahuasca experience about a week ago.
And again, I'll just describe Myahuasca. So
Yes.
Ayahuasca in the South American traditions, like in the Andes, in Peru, in Brazil, they make ayahuasca out of the Banisteris capi vine. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And chacruna leaves. So the chacruna is a source of DMT, and the capi vines are a I'm going to botch this, MAOA inhibitor. So a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which basically allows your body to hold on to the DMT for longer. It activates it biologically.
Right.
And you can actually use other sources of DMT besides chacruna leaves, which is what we have been trying. We've been experimenting, which is why we call it Myahuasca, because we did have the Banisteropsis capi vines, but we did not have the chacruna leaves. So we used mushrooms, magic mushrooms, which are another source of DMT. So it's not the traditional ayahuasca brew, but it's kind of similar.
Right.
It's in the same vein.
Right. And as we've talked about before, I mean, it's a very different experience than just taking psilocybin. Like, very different experience.
Yeah. The vine certainly has its own essence, its own spirit.
For sure.
And I want to just respect, in the ayahuasca tradition, they approach the vine not just as a medicine, but more like an intelligent spirit.
Yes.
That is a motherly spirit, and it's here to guide you. And I think we've experienced that to a lesser extent with just the vine, and I think it's been a beneficial experience for sure.
Yes.
Definitely powerful. Not overwhelming. I wouldn't say it was overwhelming, but it was powerful.
Yes.
Like more so than just mushrooms.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because especially at first when it starts to kick in, very benevolent experience. Like that is the best term for it. You just, you feel very good. So, and I don't know if that's where the concept of calling it like the mother comes from. In that, like, you almost feel that embrace of the energy around you. But maybe.
Well, I think if we were to have a real ayahuasca experience, we would certainly get that more vividly than we do.
Yeah. After maybe some purging or something, I don't know, or whenever that occurs.
Yeah. But our experience has never been so powerful that we've purged.
Yeah, no.
In the sense of like vomiting or diarrhea, we've had like shivers, maybe a little bit of nausea, but nothing that extreme.
Yeah, no. This was. I would dare say gentle compared to not when we did the vine, but when we were ingesting the leaves as part of the Myahuasca concoction.
Yeah.
Because that we almost felt like purging.
That's very common, though, that the leaves give people more of a feeling of nausea than the vine does.
Right.
But both have the molecules that are important for the experience.
Yeah. So the amazing thing was, you and I, take this, and inside of, 20, 30 minutes, I almost wanted to talk about what it was like to actually take this stuff, but I don't even like thinking about that brew.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty bad.
There's better ways that we could make it tastier if we had taken more time, but I think we just wanted to get it over with quickly. So,
and it certainly was that.
Yeah, we just like quickly drank up the mushrooms, and then we had the vine brew, and it was not the most pleasant, but I think we could work on it.
Yeah. I mean,
still experimenting. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm new to this.
Sure. I mean, I'm not opposed to drinking mud, but I mean, okay.
Maybe if I mixed in like something sweet and like made it a whole tea with some like citrusy flavors, it would be really pleasant.
All right, maybe we'll do that next time.
Yeah, I'll do that for next time. But
I like it.
I think this time around I didn't do that. So the actual ingestion, you can make it however you want to. Next time I'll make it tastier. But like after you get it down, within about half an hour, at least for me and for you.
Yeah.
And I've heard it's very different for everyone. Like some people might drink this stuff and not have any reaction.
Correct. Yeah.
And some people might experience it much more powerfully than others. It depends on your unique biology and also your intention. And I know in the ayahuasca tradition, they usually say a blessing and they like invite Mother Ayahuasca in, and they call in all these good protective spirits.
Sure.
And I think we were going into it with just an open heart and an open mind.
Yes.
And hoping for some sort of knowledge to come to us.
Yeah, I mean, we had a small invocation to it, and that was, and then that was, some kind of wisdom. I mean, that's really what I am certainly engaging in a lot of this most of the time for, is to take in some kind of wisdom. And I mean, in previous Myahuasca and this one, I mean, like, it happened, and it happened hard. It's happened every time that we've, done something over, 3 grams. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, this is another one of those. But we were both laying down in our bedroom, when
Right.
we took it. And amazingly, we were seeing the same thing.
Similar.
Very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah. Like the way we would describe it to each other. Again, yeah, very, very similar.
Though something happened to me which was very unique from what you experienced.
Yeah. Is that what you want to kick off with? What you want to dive in on?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So I just want to say, like, I am very glad that I've had this eye-opening experience of just accepting that I shouldn't believe that what I'm experiencing or seeing is not true or just a hallucination. Because I feel like that doesn't have any more relevance or weight behind it than accepting something that you're seeing or hallucinating is real. Like, either full denial or full acceptance, like either way, it's a logical fallacy if you don't have evidence one way or another, right?
Right.
So that's why I'm so open-minded to these experiences, and I'm just trying to collect whatever I can to understand like this mysterious world that we live in.
Yes.
So I just want to say that I think is an important precursor to going into this experience. You have to be open to experiencing something weird and just trust that what you're seeing and experiencing and feeling is real for you, even if it's not like on a grand universal scale real.
Right.
And there's something important for you to know that this intelligent spirit is trying to tell you. So I had taken it, was laying down with you. We were like getting through the initial, I guess, nausea, dizziness, kind of uncomfortable feeling. And then suddenly it became very pleasant. Like everything was colorful. And when I closed my eyes, I could see what I will describe as the energetic realm. Like I could feel it. Like there was like bands of polarity that I was seeing.
Right.
And there were these energetic beings that were next to me. And they were moving through me. And as they moved through me, the nerve endings inside of my body electrified. Like I could feel their shape as they moved through me. And it was a very pleasant feeling. And I was communicating with them somehow. I don't know exactly, but telepathically. But I would ask, well, can you make me feel something here or here? And it was very specific. And they would be able to do that. So like that was mystery number one.
Right.
Because these beings, and I drew a picture afterwards just to demonstrate to you, they were not human. Maybe like humanoid in some way, but like their limbs were not limbs. They were just like floating shapes that were energetically held to them.
Right.
And so the first two that I encountered were fairly pleasant. But then there was a third one I saw that was coming at me, and it was like dark, black, red, had lots of teeth, and it was
corner
like,
of your eye.
Yeah,
right? It was in your
yeah.
periphery of your vision.
And as it came closer, I just felt this feeling of like dread and despair and darkness and emptiness and like this overwhelming depression as it got closer and closer. Like my heart just hurt. Like all the desire to live was being drained out of me. And I think it's important to mention that at the time I was experiencing, I guess, what people normally call PMS. It was just before my menstrual cycle started. So,
Right.
And in the past, I have experienced premenstrual dysphoria, but it happens somewhat infrequently. So I have had real depression in my life. And I have had like real traumas in my past that may have contributed to that. And over the last few years, especially since like we've been together, I have just been so happy that I have no reason to be depressed whatsoever. And I know this beyond the shadow of a doubt. I feel more love than I've ever felt in my life. But there are times occasionally, like once or twice a year, where just before my period starts, I will feel incredibly depressed. Like, just nothing will make me happy. I'm angry, short-tempered, and I just don't know why. It's inexplicable. But in this experience, in this energetic realm, I saw that being, that dark, soul-sucking being, and I felt it as it came closer, draining the love and the life out of me. And so I opened my eyes and I said, nope, I'm not going to engage with that thing. I don't like this. I don't like where it's going. It can fuck off.
Yeah.
And it honestly did. It was like my force field went up and it disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And the fascinating thing is, I was reading about this afterwards. This is exactly what people describe when they take ayahuasca too. And the guides know of this. Like, the ayahuasca guides know about this phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
They're called like soul leeches.
Mm-hmm.
And ayahuasca helps in the sense that it won't defeat the soul leeches for you, but it will show you that they're there.
Right.
And if you know that they're there, you can reclaim your space. You can tell them to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened. Like, I made it go away.
Yeah.
But it's only because I knew it was there, that it exists, that I could do that.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this a little bit since then. It's like, I don't know, it kind of resolves the mystery for me, but in a sense, but in another, there's so many others that open up because of this. Like, what is that thing? Where did it come from? Is there a feeding cycle that it follows?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad that I know that can happen, so that now, moving forward, if I ever start to feel that way again, I can identify it and put my force field up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I want to run a couple things by you, and I want to see if they resonate,
Sure.
as you talk about this, because it's clearly a powerful experience. And I mean, the first question I want to ask here is, I mean, after you basically told it, you basically said, "Begone, Satan."
Right.
How did you feel?
Actually, a lot better.
Yeah.
It was not instantaneous, but like within an hour or two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt completely normal. I felt happy. I felt lovey. I was excited.
Right.
The depression was gone.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't like I had physically changed in the sense that like my period finally started and my hormones leveled out again, because that didn't happen for another couple days.
Yes.
But something changed.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, you drew the picture for me, and it was amazing to see that. And, it was either something so powerful and real, or it was one of the greatest creative, feats I've ever seen, on your part. But,
Thank you.
But I'm going to lean towards, obviously, that it was quite real, because in my own spiritual lens, like, there's precedent for these things.
Really?
Oh, for sure.
Tell us more about
well,
that.
So like you said, the energetic realm. I mean, this is exactly what Kabbalah talks about when they said, if you could see the demonic realm, and again, there's no good or evil. Demons are not inherently evil. Okay. There are, what we could call nefarious, or, ones with like malicious intent, but that's not the same thing as like, oh, you're born evil or you're inherently evil.
Right.
Okay.
So in the energetic realm,
yeah.
in my experience, there were the two beings that I encountered that were very pleasant and nice.
Yeah.
And then there was that one.
Right.
And so from your perspective, you're able to kind of explain both from the demonic realm side of things.
Exactly. And that's really the way to describe it. I would not call it the angelic realm, because that gets confusing, because within like the Hebrew or even Greek text, there's times where what's angelic is actually describing a technology and not a being. So demonic is never really describing a technology. That's always describing some kind of spiritual forces, energy or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I use the word demonic realm pretty much exclusively for that.
Yeah, and I think the ancient Egyptians had that same word to talk about all things relating to the energetic realm, all spiritual beings.
Right. Yeah. So basically what the Jewish sages would tell you is that if you could see the demonic realm, it'd blind you because it's everywhere. Like there's just so much, it's all over the goddamn place. Okay. And so the concept of the energetic realm, what you were seeing, you were literally seeing the demonic realm. Now that can still mean like demons. The word demons can mean a lot of different things, a lot of different types of entities. But yeah, I when you were describing this to me, I was like, yeah, exactly. Like you saw it, and very explicitly.
And those feelings that I was feeling, those were the demons or the angels or whatever, the beings.
Yeah. So tell me about, like with this particular one, it was like black, had this like red, like, anyway, we don't have to try to describe it. That's part of the problem with these things is how the fuck do you even describe this stuff? Really?
Yeah.
You have to draw it. Unfortunately, you're actually a very good artist.
Thank you.
But what did you feel you had the ones, was it just like benevolence versus maliciousness or, benevolence versus malevolence? Like what was the difference?
Yeah. I mean, again, the feelings for the first two that I experienced were just, I guess, benevolent is an okay term, but it was more so just like pleasant and fun. And like we were interacting in a way that was kind of playful.
Right.
Like they were fascinated by me and I was fascinated by them.
Right. Right.
So
there was like a reciprocity going on.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, there was some sort of exchange.
Yes. Right.
But it was altogether, from my perspective, beneficial for both of us. Whereas the third one was more of a parasite.
Sucking what? Like, what was it taking?
Yeah, I guess, my life energy, it took all of the joy.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to say. I just, when I feel love and happiness, it emanates from my heart.
Yeah.
And I can feel it so strongly there, like in my chest. When I feel that dark of a depression, it's like a black hole has just sucked everything out of my heart.
Right.
And that's the best way I can describe it, is that despair, that loneliness, isolation, darkness, just a lack of willingness to live is painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this gets into like where, let's see what resonates. Okay. Because so in a, shall we say, a Samsonid priesthood understanding of things, which is a very specific aspect of Kabbalah, your body operates as an antenna. It receives as much, if not more, than it generates. Okay. And this includes, and I've talked about this so many times over the years, but in ancient languages, like you can see etymologically where ancient peoples understood you don't feel something. Like the feeling is from outside. Like when like love is something that yes, you harness, okay, but it's coming from it's forces outside of you, and like fear, like all these things are, say, forces outside of you, and your body as an antenna, basically you can turn the antenna off on certain things. And this is how you end up with people who are very cold. This is how you end up with people, or this is how you end up with, okay, I don't want, this soul leech, like you talked about, like taking my energy. Right. And so like, it's bringing in these feelings. And I mean, there's a whole conversation to have around feelings, because the Western civilization has no concept of what the fuck emotions are. Like it just doesn't know.
but we're trying to define it here. And I think I hear what you're saying, that like my heart is acting as an antenna. And when I feel a great amount of love and joy, it's a source of love within me.
Yes.
But the source of the source is actually something demonic. Yeah.
It's energy, right? Because again, your heart, of course, has neurons. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field, and nothing really touches. Electromagnetic fields are just constantly interplaying with electromagnetic fields.
Yes.
Okay. All over the place, everywhere you go in the entire universe.
Right.
Okay?
From the smallest to the largest scales.
Right.
They all interplay.
Exactly. So you are, and this isn't law of attraction, folks. Stop. Okay. I mean, that's a separate conversation, but effectively, you are like that field is interplaying with these things that we chalk up to emotions that we have, but it's kind of like the Jungian concept, which whenever you say Jungian, you might as well say Kabbalah, because that's all Carl Jung lifted all of his ideas from, and he would tell you as much. But the Jungian idea of, ironically, you don't have ideas have you. Okay.
They come to you like a
right.
muse. They visit you.
Yeah. This is such, again, everything you understand, or not you, Ellen, but I mean like people in general, like it's all upside down. You have it completely wrong. You know, not everybody, but I'm just saying the popular concepts are just inside out. They don't make sense. And they're not the reality, is what I'm getting at. So, you know, how does that resonate with you? Because you were having this reciprocal experience with what we'll say are the benevolent, just for a term, the benevolent energy beings. And then you had the soul leech, right? Mm-hmm. And you had different feelings as you interacted, or as one came closer to you, right?
Right.
And so does that, I don't mean to be like leading, but does that to you seem like, yeah, these were things from outside of me?
They certainly felt like separate non-human entities.
Right. But they were generating an experience in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's what I'm asking. Like, if this resonates with you, the idea that actually the emotions, the things you feel, are something that come from outside you.
And I've tried to revisit this
Mm-hmm.
outside of the Myahuasca experience,
Mm-hmm.
but I just can't seem to access it in the same way that I was at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do want to hear, what was your experience? At the same time I was having that, you were
Mm-hmm.
having a somewhat similar experience.
Sure. I mean, I could talk about that a little bit, but very quickly, I do want to also address, like, and this is kind of a second part, okay? An entire aspect of magic, ancient magic. In fact, a lot of people don't know this. So in Jewish mysticism, outside of Kabbalah, the most written about subject in not just Jewish mysticism, but like in Jewish lore, shall we say, or like Jewish practice, is actually about what's called bowl magic, B-O-W-L. So it's Jewish bowl magic. Now, part of what this Jewish bowl magic does is you're making these bowls, and you put inscriptions on them, all this other kind of stuff. And the most common thing that you would do with one of these is you would put it in the corner of your room, and like literally in a corner. And the idea was that this bowl just sitting there would naturally trap these soul leeches, like you're describing. Okay, these
Mm-hmm.
beings, or sometimes it would be to like keep Lilith from getting to the baby's bed, or, you know, something along
Sure.
those lines. That's a very complex subject to get into. But the idea, like, it's not lost on me that your experience, the soul leech, you know, because I know how we were laying, and like you said, it was in your periphery, that soul leech was coming from the corner of the room.
Actually, yeah, it was.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, I didn't mention this, but those lines in the background of the lines of polarity that were
Mm-hmm.
just like the energetic realm itself.
Yes.
I saw a hill, like a protrusion
Mm-hmm.
over in the direction that you were laying in,
Right.
and that's how I interpret it, is that I guess warping of the electromagnetic field was you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yes, coming from the corner of the room, which was like to the right of you, was
Yeah.
the direction from which that soul leech was coming.
Yeah. Now, so another interesting thing, and this to me really, I think, like, just bolsters bowl magic. Your experience does, but then also the work of Wilhelm Reich, very controversial figure. Okay. You know, student of Freud and all this, even though lots of Freud students completely disagreed with Freud. And
Yeah.
and fortunately, I think we're at the point, thankfully, in the 21st century where, like, Freud's work has basically been, like, thrown out. You know,
There's some good things you can cherry pick out of it,
Yeah,
I think, but
yeah.
but a lot of it, nonsense.
Right. I mean, like, you know, I feel like Adlerianism is on the rise. I'm so glad for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and of course, Jung is Jung. But anyway, Wilhelm Reich, you know, very, very controversial figure for his ideas around orgasms, orgone, all that kind of stuff. But he had this concept that there were like rods you could put in your bedroom in the corner of the room that if you did that and you did it right, you'd suddenly, like in the morning, you'd be waking up refreshed, feeling better, whatever. Now, I don't know how much, I mean, Freud read Kabbalah for sure. I mean, he had whole ideas about what he thought like the Hebrews were and all this other stuff. I mean, so he was well schooled. Okay. So Reich could have picked it up from him, but this idea, you know, that, and I'm, again, like, it's just amazing that your experience lines up with so much of these. I mean, Reich would say his ideas were scientific, not mystical, but whatever. Okay. like the, you know, that these technologies, we'll just say that, all line up, you know, very well with your experience. So, you know,
that's
I mean,
interesting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I was just, you know, curious your thoughts on that as well. And
I don't know. I think we need to do some experiments with some bowls and rods. Yeah,
I mean, Jewish bowl magic is definitely something I've wanted to, shall we say, we had a teacher-student relationship, something to add to the curriculum. Because it was also, amazingly, it was like this most powerful aspect of mysticism and widely regarded as practiced by women. Like, and that was, you know, like an expectation, which is rare in anything. And I think it was just so powerful that that's why the rabbis were like, yeah, women got this. You know? So
just let them handle it.
Yeah, because normally they'd be like, no, the women can't do it. It's us. You know, and that was not the case.
The rabbis knew that like women had some amount of power that men just couldn't touch.
Yeah, that there was something else to this. But anyway, that's all very complex stuff and certainly stuff we'll talk about in the future, including the work of Wilhelm Reich. That's a whole other conversation as well. Because usually you bring out that name and people just start like, no, screw these people. They're nuts. And it's like, no, hold on. We're being very specific here. You know, very careful in what we apply. Okay. So for my experience, so when I did not experience this soul leech. I did see, I mean, it almost looked like the universe, or everything around me, I should say, existence looked like a topographic 3D map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the same thing that I was experiencing too. The lines of polarity.
Yes, exactly. And it was amazing that we described it, and we were seeing the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know, so that, to me, that goes beyond anecdote. Okay. like, you know, for me.
Well, we need 3 or more witnesses to agree, right?
2 or 3. So
2 or 3.
we got, yeah.
We got 2.
Yeah, we got 2. There's 2. So,
if anybody else out there tries Myahuasca,
right,
give us your feedback.
Yeah.
Did you see the same thing?
Exactly. So this, for me though, it ended up very quickly becoming a very sexual experience. Okay. And now, I mean, this is all stuff that if I wanted to take the time that I could explain from a Kabbalistic spiritual, you know, lens and level. Okay. If I wanted to, but, like I felt and I encountered beings as well. It's very strange. They were almost, the beings, they almost looked polygonal, like something out of a Star Fox game or something, you know, like it was very, though they were like golden, but they were like folding out. They were like flowers, lines coming together. Like you were watching the energy come together and they're like blossoming out of it, but it would blossom, instead of it being a flower, it would be like a face, like a golden face or something along these lines.
Low resolution.
Yeah. Very low resolution. Again, polygonal is the best description I can give it.
Right. But they're basically trying to make themselves seen.
Yeah, exactly. They were revealing themselves in a literal sense. And, but the energy, like from them would, and there was communication happening, but it is not the communication of words. It's just not.
Right. It was something telepathic.
Yeah. It was like, you know, maybe empathic might even be the best term.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah. Because it was, and again, I got to be careful with the word emotions because, like I said, our Western concept of emotions are byproducts of Victorian era novels.
It was a feeling. It was a, you know, some sort of power.
Yeah, sensations, power. Yeah, and all of it was just like flowing, literally. It's Sexoterica, folks. Flowing literally to my cock, and like go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
Please.
I just want to say, like, my story earlier from the beings that were giving my body specific sensations in specific locations and making those nerve endings light up. You know, I thought they were interacting with nerve endings because nerve endings do have that electrical signal, right? And one of the places that our bodies have the most nerve endings is our sexual organs,
right?
The external ones,
right?
Like for me, it's the clitoris. For you, it's the penis.
Yeah.
And I did experience that too. So when you said that, I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So we're kind of having like a similar experience on multiple levels.
Exactly. Yeah, which was also like just insane, to report that kind of consistency.
So when this energy was flowing to your penis,
yes.
What was that like?
I mean, obviously I was getting hard, and it felt good overall. And yes, I wanted to rub on you. And I want to talk about more about that in a second, though. Okay. Because there needs to be some trepidation, some gentleness taken with that. Okay. Especially based on the experience you had. But like, it literally, like it felt, I want to say I saw, but also felt, the idea of like feeling colors or like tasting colors, right? It's like NyQuil, NyQuil tastes green, DayQuil tastes like red. It's very weird. It's like, yes, this is you down that. It's like, that's what green tastes like. It's so bad. Anyway, so, but like you could taste and I could like feel as much as I could see the colors. And it was just Roy G. Biv. It was just like a rainbow with like a bright light at the core of it, and that was and I wasn't naked necessarily, oh wait, no, I was. Yes, I was. So, sorry.
Oh, you had taken your clothes off.
I had taken my clothes off.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, because we were just laying down in bed, and so I do that all the time.
You just do that to be comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're so big. Like, wearing clothes is restrictive.
They just, like, I really don't like boxers, but, briefs just are too brief.
They're supportive.
I know, but they're too tight.
You don't need support when you're laying down.
Yeah, no, and I have to get a size a size bigger, but then they're kind of hanging off of my ass, and it just it just defeats the purpose.
You go too small or too big.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nobody fucking. I'm not saying this as a boast, folks. Just nobody makes underwear for big dicks. Like they just don't. And anyway, okay, that's it.
So you saw your big dick energy radiating like a rainbow.
Wow, I didn't even think. Yes. I was literally seeing big dick energy. I did not think about it that way, but I guess that's a way of saying it. Yeah. But that's so great. You're so brilliant. But to disabuse anybody. Okay. Here's the funny thing. Like, yes, I was feeling like, okay, yeah, I want to I would have had sex in that moment.
If somebody had offered, you would have been like, yes.
Yeah. Right. But at the same time, this was an incredibly unique at this point. It'll be rare, I'm sure, because I'll have it again. But like, it's unique in that this was the first time where I felt like my cock is hard, but there is nothing. It's not necessarily sexual. It's erotic, but erotic and sexual are not the same thing. Like sex models the erotic, but it doesn't exhaust the erotic.
Did you feel like this is what those faces, those beings were trying to communicate to you? Like
something along those lines. Yeah. But I mean, this was like basically what really struck me. And I guess this is the dare I say, why I think there's multiple reasons I think there's value in you and I talking about our entheogenic experiences. Okay. Part of the reason that I feel like I have something to contribute in this is because I have this education, these learned experiences in mystical schools and whatever else that I didn't always recognize where, and I don't think most people have ever recognized where they are talking about entheogens or they are talking about experiences that are entheogenic, enhanced. Okay. And so when there are so many rituals that are, say, that could be very vulgarly attributed to like a phallic worship or like where the phallus plays a central role in any case. And again, I'm saying vulgarly. Okay. It's so much more than that. That's not even the right words to use. This is the first time that I felt that where like, no, there is like this energetic core to this, and it was incredibly intense. Like that was so wild to feel. And it's also why I think when you asked us to like, hey, let's leave the room, let's get out of here. That I didn't feel like, oh, but I gotta have sex. You do whatever, even though I was feeling this incredibly erotic energy.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful that you didn't like push yourself on me or anything. And
Yeah.
I know you wouldn't in
Of course.
general because you're very respectful. But
Yeah.
I just want to say that like when people are having these experiences and they do experience something similar to you where it's erotic energy, they're feeling turned on, they're feeling stimulated sexually.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the person that you're with is having the same pleasant feelings and experience that you
Exactly.
are. Like, yes, I felt some nice things down in my pants, but I also had that super depressing soul leech. So, like, obviously I wasn't having a great time.
Yeah.
And if you had asked me to have sex right then, I would have said no. And not because I want to hurt your feelings or that I want to reject you. It's just like my experience was not something that led me to feel that would have been a positive thing. So I really appreciate that you had the self-awareness to contain yourself.
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting that in ayahuasca ceremonies, if you're there with like multiple other people, generally people will sit by themselves and they're not allowed to talk with each other or
Yes.
interact or touch.
Yes.
That's how it's professionally run. And it's for that exact reason, because everyone's having their own journey.
Yeah.
And you've got to respect that.
Yeah, I mean, and look, this is one of the things that for years when I was against the, shall we say, and I mean, I'm not against anybody doing anything. They do what they want, but I'm just saying that I was not, for myself, I didn't want to experience entheogens. Like, part of my concern was, and also why maybe on a broader context, I was like, I don't know if these are a good idea, is because I've heard so many horror stories from people I know personally of where they were sexually abused, even during an ayahuasca experience, and again, people are so vulnerable in these experiences. Like, even if you're also in the experience, holy shit, that does not give you license to just do whatever the fuck you're feeling in that moment. Even if you feel like the demonic realm is like enhancing you, or pushing all that energy on you in that way, like that means something to you, but it may mean nothing to the people near you.
Yeah, and this is a whole other conversation. But
Sure.
a lot of what you're talking about has to do with intention. Not everybody has good intentions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people just want more power, and
Yep.
they don't care how they get it.
Yeah. 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 So back to, to you and I, like, I mean, I could tell there was something up. You didn't tell me till later what you saw, but
Yeah,
I could
it
tell,
had to settle in for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I could tell something was up though. And I wasn't going to engage in anything. And this is this is a subject I really wanted to revisit because a person is in such a vulnerable state during these experiences, like I would be terrified, because and you can correct me if you want, Ellen, but your natural inclination is that it's the way our relationship dynamic is set up. If I, want to have sex, you're going to facilitate. I mean, we have a master-slave relationship, and so you have an inclination to say yes, right? Like, I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, in general, there are times where I'm not like the most excited,
No, of
but I'll be
course.
like, yeah, okay, sure, you can use me if you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are times where I say no, and you totally respect that, and
yeah.
so you could call it master slave, but like ultimately, I still have the ability to give a total veto and say no.
Sure. And I mean, again, like, those are things that I pick up on anyway, so it's never had to happen. It's never had to come up.
Right.
Like these things have just never occurred. And so, but I'm just saying that I am and anybody should be so careful if you are feeling sexually charged during these things. Again, that might just be you, and
Yeah.
you really like, again, consent does not go out the door just because you're both taking something,
Right.
And just because you're feeling the energetic realm, and you might even be feeling like, oh, the energetic realm is inspiring me, to have sex or something. Who the fuck cares? Because we're all gods. The person next to you who's also, flying high is also a god, and you just don't mess with each other like that.
Yeah, and truly what it was inspiring in you was a sensation, a feeling, an experience. It wasn't necessarily something that needed to be shared. It was very personal.
No, it really was. But it was like, it was the first experience, and I can end on this. I mean, it was the first experience I've had where like I felt, and again, this isn't entirely sexual. It's so much more, but where I felt the power of my genitals. Like, that's it. Like that there was something to that. There was something amazing about that.
It's like a rainbow lightsaber.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. so that was something else. But that was like the initial and kind of one of the primary takeaways.
What do you mean by power of your genitals? What do you think that means for you?
Oh, well, so, we very quickly, I'll try to be super brief. Tikkun Olam. Right. The great rectification. Like the idea of beautiful, making the universe more beautiful.
Sorry, did you say the great erectification?
Yeah, the great erectification. That's what we're going to call Tikkun Olam from now on. The great erectification. And we mean both the penis and the clit. So, okay. The great erectification. I'm totally running with that from now on. That's so great. We're going to have to title the episode that, I think. But yeah, there's the description of what that process, that transfer of energy that happens through orgasm and semen and, so much else, right? That occurs that allows for the energetic transmission from the woman, to where this repair of the universe or the beautification, increased beautification of the universe occurs. That was the first time, like, I feel like I felt what the fuck that energy was. Like, felt it, saw it, the whole thing.
Amazing.
So that's what I mean by power. It's like, wow, no, that is not just a dick. Like, like there's something so much more to it. So I mean, I could talk about that for a while, but we don't have to do that.
So you saw it as like a physical manifestation of some great power.
Yeah. Of this energy that, again, through the sexual act, which is, one of the ways to engage in Tikkun Olam, like what that's like, how that occurs and what that energy is. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really grateful that we had this experience, and I'm so glad that we can continue to experiment together. And thank you for having such an open mind and also being respectful of my experience at the same time as you're having your very different experience.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And thank you for listening to my crazy stories and taking it seriously and giving me thoughtful feedback.
Yeah. Well, they're not crazy in my book.
Because, like, I would have expected, if I had talked about this with anyone else, that they would have been like, whoa, what a trip. Well, anyway, that's crazy.
Right.
So thank you for having something that was, like, helpful to contribute and not just thinking that it was, a hallucination that I had.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, you've always been the same way for me. And I mean, this is one of the big missions for me with and I think for us with Sexoterica is, again, we need to like remystify the world. Like,
listen to people's stories and take them seriously.
Yeah. I mean,
and not dismiss them.
Exactly. And people can learn to do this. I mean, just think 100 years ago, if you saw somebody walking down the street in your town and they were just like talking in midair, seemingly talking to the air, you would think, holy, they're fucking nuts. Today, you see people talking to the air all the fucking time, nonstop.
And people still say that.
Yeah, right. But what you're doing, you're talking in your cell phone or into your AirPods, or whatever. And my point is that, like, what you see as strange before, like that can change. And also, sometimes I wonder, these people that we've locked up for centuries because we think they're nuts, maybe they're actually engaging with something that you just don't happen to see at the time.
And it's interesting you bring this up because another word for insane, I mean, in the past anyway, it's kind of fallen out of favor now, but we used to call those people touched in the head.
Yes.
Touched by what? exactly.
The divine.
Touched by the divine.
Yeah.
Right. They're speaking to the spirit realm. They're speaking
Right.
to something that you can't see.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
And I think maybe we've lost interest in understanding that, but that's something that people used to understand, or at least it was part of the popular lexicon.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people talk about like what happened to all the great artists. We used to have so many great artists, and what happened to like some of the really great inventors, the Teslas or whatever. Like where did they go? It's like, well, you euthanized them and locked them all up because you thought they were nuts. Like,
Yeah, well, now everybody's been educated to the point of being brain dead.
yeah, right,
So,
right,
I think that maybe has taken the spirit out of a lot of people,
for sure.
is having to like be beaten over the head again and again with these ideas of what is acceptable and what's not.
Yeah, exactly. So I think your point, Ellen, is very salient and right on. Like everybody needs to get touched.
And I think we had an experience where we were touched.
Yes, I completely agree. I can think of no other way to describe it.
It felt like touch. The nerve endings being activated.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean the other part of it, like you say you encountered a demon, like, and I didn't even flinch at the idea. Well, it's not just because I read it in books that they exist. I mean, I'll just very briefly say, like, yeah, I've had my experiences as well, and without entheogens, at least that I was aware of. That's a story for another time. So
It is. And I think this is a great segue into our
Yes.
final topic.
Let's do it.
Which has to do actually with entheogens.
Yeah, and actually seeing little white creatures.
Going into a portal.
Yeah, going into a portal. Very strange. We are talking about none other than the show Common Side Effects, which I do believe will have a season 2. It certainly ended with a cliffhanger. Spoiler alerts, folks. It's not a very long series, about 10 episodes. Each episode is about 20, 25 minutes a pop. And one of the people behind it is none other than Beavis and Butthead's own Mike Judge. In my opinion, one of the most brilliant creators that humanity has produced in the past 40 years.
I don't think he created the show,
No.
but he's certainly a voice actor. In
Yeah,
it.
I mean, you feel his
His presence is known.
Yeah, his presence is there. But yes, other people are involved. But this is a show that, entirely, like you said, entirely has to do with entheogens, or not just entheogens, but something that, like this blue mushroom, that not only, takes you through this portal, gives you this mystical experience or, entheogenic experience, but also can heal you, can literally raise you from the dead. But it can heal like any malady, anything. I mean, even if like your bones break, like your neck breaks or something, it can heal that.
As long as you eat it quickly enough.
Right. And I mean, certainly the first few episodes of the show, perhaps the most valuable thing that occurs out of it is it very accurately shows you just how fucked up the, big pharma is. I don't think people need a cartoon to show them that, but this certainly does the job.
No, I think they do. Honestly, people often buy pharmaceuticals, and I think, like, even for myself, before I started working in the pharma sector, I would do the same thing. I'd purchase or procure pharmaceuticals and be grateful, like, oh, this miracle chemical exists and I can just make myself feel however I want to.
Right.
But the truth is that pharmaceutical companies are ruthlessly after profit, and they spend a lot of time and money destroying competition, and also they use underhanded tactics to sell drugs and make money, and they'll pay the fines for legal fines or penalties for doing something illegal. As long as it's profitable enough, they don't care.
Right.
And I think the show really describes that well, how they will like hunt down, or in the show they hunted down where this mushroom was growing, and they try to get rid of it because they knew that it would destroy all of their profits. And this is something that's somewhat conspiratorial, but there's also some truth to it, right? That pharmaceutical companies don't want a cure-all, because then how are they going to make millions?
Yeah, or even just they don't want natural solutions, because, I mean, as hard as Monsanto may want to try, like, you can't really patent broccoli. I mean, you kind of can if it's
Sure.
GMO, but like ultimately anybody can grow broccoli, and like imagine throwing people in jail for growing broccoli. Maybe that's something in our future to come, but I hope not. But at least right now, I don't think that would fly so well. But like, for example, if you tell somebody, hey, you know what, you can get rid of this problem if you just add some fucking broccoli to your diet, and it'll work. But like, does that make a company really any money? No. So why are they going to recommend that? They would much rather create some synthetic bullshit to put inside your body to begin to try with a million other common side effects, to give you what broccoli alone could say.
And I think the disturbing part of the show is just how true it is that pharma companies are after profits heartlessly. Yeah. And that just proves the point. Like, if like in the show, one of the characters is like a CEO of this pharma company.
Right.
And the woman protagonist, well, she's kind of a mixed protagonist antagonist at
Frances.
times. So she is working with the guy. She's friends with the guy who finds this blue angel mushroom.
Right.
And she's trying to bring it to her pharma boss, saying, this is going to cure everything. This is going to save the planet. We got to market this thing. And he's doing research on it. At a certain point, they can't synthesize the magical components that heal people. But they could make a really great food flavoring. So they use that to make their profits. But along the way, there's this even bigger boss guy who's behind a lot of the nefarious shit that happens in the show.
Yeah.
Like, he's got connections to the FBI, the CIA, the government. And he's also like mega wealthy. And he ultimately ends up like getting really sick, and then he starts trying to get access to this mushroom because he doesn't want to die, and he's terrified of dying. But he's also like, he's trying to destroy the blue mushroom so that it never breaks out into the pharma world, because then how would they have their nice offices and their nice cars and their nice apartments?
Yeah, he makes a whole argument of like, look, the problem is if you bring in these natural solutions that anybody has access to and could grow themselves or whatever, you literally destroy the world economy. Like, and everything that people expect of modernity goes away.
I even hate that you use the word modernity. You really put emphasis on the Moderna there.
Oh, yeah, right. Moderna. Yeah, right.
So, there's just this cycle of pharmaceutical companies and then healthcare providers. And like, the healthcare companies are trying to make it cheaper for you to buy pharmaceuticals, which are ridiculously overpriced.
Right.
But the only reason they're overpriced is because you have health insurance, and the insurance companies, like, there's this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And things keep getting more expensive if you don't have insurance, but if you do, then you can get access to this stuff. So there's this whole question about like, who gets access to the medicine? Like, is it just the wealthy? Is it the people who have insurance? Is it everybody? Like, who gets access to this blue angel mushroom?
Yeah. I mean, it really, again, it's the most extreme form of some kind of medicine, because I mean, you can even like bring people back from the dead. And in that, like, it just like it really shows like, what if you had just the best fucking medicine ever? No, the system cannot allow that to exist. And it explains why. And honestly, like, what amazes me about the show is I think it's incredibly even-handed, as in it plays all sides, because Jonas, which admitted, so he's the financier, kind of the bigwig that's trying to shut this thing down, that you were mentioning. I feel like he might be a little anti-Semitic. Really? Like, oh yeah, I think they're totally playing him up as a Jew, and that's annoying. Like, he's totally some kind of Rothschild type character, and fuck that shit. But
they exist.
I'll leave that aside. I think even like his last name was like Beckstein or something like that.
Okay, well, race aside, those people exist. Right. That kind of power and whatever does exist, and they do think this way, and their argument isn't exactly wrong. Okay.
but understand what they're wanting to stabilize and keep going. You know, the system that we live in that's killing everybody. Okay. So
yeah, and the irony is that the pharmaceutical companies that are generating all of this like ecological trash, in the sense that they're dumping wastewater,
right,
and it's very toxic. The irony is that the mushrooms actually adapted to absorb that toxicity, to grow off of it.
Right.
And so out of this absolute like almost radioactive toxic waste, you get this really pure healing mushroom that can do miraculous things.
Yeah, I mean, it heals the earth and you at the same time. Like it's amazing that it can do that. Now, that's not to say there aren't side effects, common side effects, which the title of the show is fantastic.
Right, because that implies uncommon,
right.
which you do see there's at least one person that has a very uncommon side effect.
Yeah, so, but this is another thing the show did very well, and that is, like, people start, the show doesn't call it this, and this is my term, but it's what I call the Superman syndrome. Okay, which in DC Comics, okay, Lex Luthor, his argument, the reason why he's a quote unquote villain, again, nobody's a villain in their own eyes. Okay. Nobody's the villain in their own story. Lex Luthor, his problem with Superman is that if, you know, basically like Superman is keeping humanity from evolving because humanity will just rely upon Superman. Okay. And that's his issue with Superman. He actually thinks Superman is the Antichrist.
Because he's making people lazy.
Yeah, exactly. And even like in 1979 in the 78 Superman, I should say, in the 78 Superman movie, there's a point where Jor-El says that. He's like, if you don't have a secret identity, my son, people are going to ask you to do even the most mundane things. You'll never stop. You know?
Superman, I'm not feeling so great today. Can you come over and make me breakfast, please? You'd be my hero.
Something like
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, yeah. And so the Blue Angel, you end up with the same scenario where people start showing up to take it because basically there's this, we don't have to tell the whole story.
They do finally grow it.
Yeah, like they get a process going and they're able to, and like people are able to get it, you know, and some people really need it and great. Okay. But then there are people who are like, oh man, can I have that Blue Angel? Like I've got this hangnail. You know what I mean?
Scrape
like,
my arm up.
Yeah, right. Like the littlest things.
And there's people standing in line that are like literally dying.
Yeah.
Waiting for days to get this.
Right. So it shows the other side of like, if you had something like this, the bottom line is humanity's not ready for it.
Yeah. And the one person who found it originally, he wants to give it away to everyone for free.
Yeah.
But the people who are helping him to grow and distribute the mushrooms are taking advantage of it because like there's so many people. Well, I can tell them that they have to pay money to stand in line here.
Right.
And who's going to question us, right?
Right.
So like the show, I think, like you said, very even-handed, but it disturbs me because you've got this one person on one side who is trying to give it away entirely for free. And because of this lack of regulation, there are people who are absolutely being taken advantage of. They're being scammed. And then on the other hand, you have the overly regulated pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
Where it's like obvious that there are points along the way in the system where people get taken advantage of, but it's in a systemic way. So it's a very regulated system in the sense that like it's all well documented and you know predictably who's going to take advantage of you when.
Right.
So there's that juxtaposition. And at the very end of the series, they kind of indicate that maybe in the next season they're going to try and find the path of I don't know, they're going to find the recourse by balancing those two perspectives of like giving it away for free and no regulation, and then the overly regulated farm industry. Like they're going to try and find a path that's in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the group, there's like a cultish group around the Blue Angel as well, which I also think would absolutely occur. You know, it's just more of that even-handedness. And like a big part of this is finding the path of, okay, how would something like this, like, how do you introduce it to the world? Like, how does it become a part of life, you know, of the circle of life, shall we say? And of course it ends on a cliffhanger, you know? And so season 2, Yeehoo, can't wait for it. Another thing I thought that it really introduced very well, because there's these little white beings that everybody starts seeing.
Yeah,
At
like
first,
when you take the journey of the mushroom, you hallucinate this little white guy, and there's a bunch of like colorful shapes and weird visuals and things that don't really make sense that happen, but sometimes they do make sense.
Yes. Yeah. And like they call it the portal that you kind of go through, and like people seem to be able to communicate with each other over vast distances through this portal at times. But like these little white guys, like garden gnome style things. Okay. They start appearing for people even when they're not taking the Blue Angel and not going through the portal or anything like that. They just start showing up.
They almost look like the forest spirits.
Yeah.
From, was it Princess Mononoke?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Good call out. Yes. They look very much like that. 100%. And now you really don't get a hint of what they are. You don't know, but some people see them and it's driving them nuts because they're like seeing them all the time, and I get the sense, this is theory, that they are representative of the desires of the mushroom itself. And I absolutely love that even that angle, if that's what it is, that angle is also being included. Like I said, this is coming from all sides.
So this aligns very well with what we're saying about ayahuasca earlier, that the vine has an intelligent spirit.
Yes, it has its own intentions. Yeah.
So the mushroom has an intelligent spirit,
right?
That people are interacting with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jonas, the big bad boss guy, when he's dying, he finally just before he dies is able to take some of the Blue Angel mushroom, and you see in his hallucination he's being reborn over and over again, and he's just this disgusting creature, and he has to face all of this toxicity that he's grown within himself. And the white spirit of the mushroom is kind of just hiding in the background watching, like just waiting for the moment when he's ready to have an intelligent conversation. Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah, it definitely looks like a cycle of rebirth that Jonas is going through, something like that.
He's purging.
Yeah, he's purging. Right. Yeah. And so, but I love that. Like you have the pharmaceutical, you have like the everyday people, you have Marshall, who's trying to like walk the line of all of these things, who's the main character, and I love that he's not like some like big hero. Like he's this, kind of just little heavy set hippie dude, just walking around helping people where he can.
And he's
very
got a tortoise.
Yeah, and he has the tortoise. The tortoise is very important.
The tortoise from Peru, where the mushroom was found. Yeah,
which is a necessity, we'll say, for the mushroom existence. But and I love the tortoise imagery. That's so great that's a part of it. But and again, so you have Marshall, who's like walking the line of all of these things. You have the cult, and then you have really what is ultimately the mushroom itself that seems to have its own desires and intentions. And again, for me, that's almost my favorite part of it, because that's the part that I don't hear from a lot of people who go through entheogenic experiences talking about. Is like, you do understand you may be communicating with the life form and it may have its own desires. It's a, synergistic relationship that you have with it. And anyway, it's just a wild concept to try and portray, and really that I think can only be done in animation. So I also love the fact that the show is animated. Do you have comments on that, Ellen?
Yeah, I agree. I think the artistry was pretty interesting.
Unique.
Yeah, very unique.
Yeah.
And not relatable to any mushroom experience I've ever had, but
right.
I can see the themes and definitely appreciate that the show was made so thoughtfully.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I give the show like an easy 9 out of 10 right now. It's season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good.
It is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely hooks you. I mean, we watched it in less than a week. We watched it in like almost a weekend.
It was a long weekend. It was my birthday weekend.
Yes.
So we started it. So it was like a 4-day weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So totally bingeable, but just gives a lot to think about, and I know you even walked away from it, and I'll edit this out if you want, but you walked away from it like, I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to be in this industry anymore.
That's not a surprise to anyone, though.
Yeah,
that shouldn't come as a shock.
Right.
Like, I love what I do in some ways, but in other ways, I can't fucking wait to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So like and this is brought up in the show too, and I kind of love that I was able to relate to this side of things because the female protagonist, she works in the pharma industry, and she's talking to one of her friends who works in like the R&D department.
Yep.
And she asks her, like, is big pharma bad? And this girl proceeds to tell her about the development of this one drug, after which, when it was released to the public, the incidence of heart attacks and strokes went down by like 40%. So that's like over 800,000 lives saved or something,
right,
because of this one drug. And that's the thing that I feel good about in my job. So in my profession, what I work on, we help save people from sickle cell anemia and beta thalassemia, which is a very incredibly painful condition.
Yeah.
Once you go through the treatment plan that the company that I work with offers, you're functionally cured for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you can do things that you previously would have been unable to do, and you don't experience pain the way that you did before. So in a way, it sets people free to live their lives.
Right.
And I love that. I think that's incredible.
Right.
And the company I work with is also working on other cures, functional cures, I should say, for not just painful conditions, but conditions that could potentially be life-threatening, that could cause people to die at a very early age. So to functionally cure someone for life from that condition, like, I love that. I'm so happy that exists.
Yeah.
And of course I want that to be in the world for people. I would prefer that people weren't born with these things, but like some of these illnesses are genetic and there's nothing you can do about it. Which is why cell therapy is such an important technology.
For sure.
But at the same time, the system itself is really fucking twisted, and capitalism sucks. And I don't have to go down that road.
Preach.
But I just wish that the system wasn't so terrible and that we cared about people enough to gift them this sort of treatment. Yeah. Instead of making it millions of dollars to go through a treatment plan.
Yeah, I mean, so any show that can inspire a person one way or the other, in that kind of, in that sort of thing. And again, you also elucidated how like this is such an even-handed show,
right.
like, which is amazing in itself. I mean, that's rare to have even-handedness, yet also cause like an extreme, kind of emotional reaction, which is not a bad thing. Maybe extreme might be too strong a word, but to have such a visceral, emotional reaction, folks, that's art. Like that is high order art, man. And this show is that. It is. So whether, whether you're more scientifically minded or mystical minded, I think there's something for everybody. Really, those should always come together, but whatever.
I think this is the most intelligent thing that Mike Judge has worked on. Yeah. Though Silicon Valley comes close, but yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying I really appreciated it. I could relate to it. I love the show. Yeah, awesome. So definitely excited. I think we are greenlit for season 2. I can't wait to see that. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Yeah. All right. So I think we got it all in. I think we got some sex. We did it. We talked about some entertainment, some experiences. Took care of heaven. Put that matter to bed. Yeah. Give yourself a pat on the back. Maybe it's all, like Def Leppard said, heaven is a girl I know so well. But heaven is a girl I have to have. And I think there's one in front of me I have to have right now. Oh, my. Oh. What are you doing? I took my sweater off. You slut. Can I say that? I let the fabric hide it for this entire show. No, not anymore. Oh, my God. Folks, we got to go. We got to go. All right. We got to wrap this show up. We'll wrap you up. We'll see all of you on the other side.
You just experienced Sexoterica. This show, while fun, includes extensive original research that is only possible by funding from people like you. Go to patreon.com/sovryn if you'd like to donate. And if you enjoyed the show, please like, comment and subscribe or leave a review. From all of us at Sexoterica, we love you and we thank you. We really, really do.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I'm really glad I put this sweater on so you're not staring at my hard nipples the entire time we're recording.
Oh, don't let a little bit of cloth get between me and that.